3 reasons why you would not survive in Night City. Now, this is a little bit of a fun video that I decided to come up with because I was just thinking, Night City is gruesome. It's a cruel, nasty place. So I was wondering, would I be able to survive in Night City? And then I got to thinking, how about an average person in general? If we were to take them at their current moment, so maybe, let's consider how they are physically, mentally, age, their current job, whatever it is, everything right now. If I was to take that average person and plop them into Night City, would they survive in Night City?
Nope.
Reason number 1, look at the NCPD.
Whoa, who are these losers?
It is so bad. So the system in which we rely on to enact, our rights when it comes to criminals and protecting us is almost non-existent in Night City. And the reason why I say this is because V actually does some missions where it's an NCPD scanner where we are completing gigs for the NCPD. So the system in which we rely on for security and safety is not there. So your anxiety, your feeling of being secured, all of that is kind of stripped away. Just imagine, like, if something was to happen to you at that moment, a NCPD officer may or may not come to your rescue, which means if you're just walking down the street and at that moment, again, the Tiger Claws looks at you and says, I'm gonna pick on that guy. Yeah, no, you're quite possibly not gonna be able to survive that encounter. So that is reason number 1. I think the system itself is so flawed. There's not enough police officers within the NCPD to even complete their day-to-day tasks, that it comes to a point where a mercenary is the one completing the gigs for them. So that is my reason number 1. Reason number 2, I don't think you can afford it. And I started thinking about this because I looked at, and it's kind of funny the way I look at this, is the way I build my PC, for example, was through, I was financing different parts of it in order for me to build a rig, and the cost of it was around like 6,000 Canadian, so whatever that is in US or euros, okay? And I remember thinking, I'm like, if I went at this at one go, yes, I could have done it, but it would have been detrimental to my living expense, right? So, but that ability to do that is actually, doesn't look like it's existent in Night City. And then I know, okay, yeah, it's definitely possible that someone takes payments in, being financed and all that. I'm sure they do, but every single netrunner, every single Ripper Doc, every single vendor in the game does not give you credits and, not credit, but find the financing option. And I think the reason for that is because, as a Ripper Doc, if you're trying to make business, if you let a gonk say, hey, yeah, you can pay me a little bit now, a little bit later. What if that gonk does a gig and he's no longer alive to pay you? You just lost out on money. So it looks like these guys take the money up front. And again, I don't know what your salary is. I know what my salary is. All I know is if I needed some cyberware, if I needed something, in order to just function properly in Night City, I would not be able to afford it. Imagine buying a car. Imagine your living expenses. And then you're like, oh, I need the cyberware because an accident happened and I no longer have my left arm like Johnny Silverhand. But you can't afford it. So now you don't have it. And then again, we can probably talk about the expenses when it comes to medical bills, etc., all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. If you're an above average person and you have substantial income coming into you, at this point you're probably a corpo, in which case you're probably corrupt. But I'm talking about if you're just an average Choomba living in Night City, I don't think you'd have the finances you needed unless you became a mercenary like V. To make this comparison more realistic, consider the fact that David's mom, Gloria, is a paramedic and she barely has enough to pay for rent and to put her son in school. I understand that the Arasaka education is probably a little bit more, but a paramedic salary, at least in Ontario, and again, I live in Ontario, Canada, varies. So I did see, I just went on Indeed real quick. You can actually see that the average base salary is around $62,000 Canadian. Of course, there's taxes, whatever it is. So I don't know Night City taxes, but imagine that living on an average of $62,000, not being able to afford rent and not being able to afford to put your son into school. Yes, she is a single mother. I do understand that. And of course, she has a car. She has other expenses to consider. It got to a point where she was even completing little gigs for Maine. She took the Sandevistan from the Colonel when he was dead to try and sell it to get even more money. So that just proves how crazy I don't know if it's inflation or the cost of living within Night City. And again, $62,000 in Canadian is pretty decent. So I'm just putting that out there as a comparison so you guys understand where I'm coming from. And lastly, the reason I think a lot of us would not survive in Night City is because of our current status of being woke. Now, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trying to get into politics or anything like that, but I'm just hear me out for a second here. Imagine you work at a corporation and, the boss treats you poorly. And given how we currently behave, with the rights of, certain the employees and just humans in general, right? And you're working for this corporation. I don't know if you guys remember this scene. There was an Arasaka scene in Edge Runners where the mother is trying to go to her son's graduation or something like that, and then he says something along the lines of if you want to, you might lose your job, right? It's in today's time. If you were to do that, right, that company would be in so much trouble. However, unfortunately, Night City is a autonomous city, meaning it governs itself freely. If we recall, Night City has a mayor, Lucius Ryan, and then he passes. So was it Weldon Holt, or it could be the Perales dude? Regardless, what I'm trying to say here is Night City is run by a corporation, which is Arasaka, and we know that. So imagine, okay, well, maybe not just Arasaka, but any other corporation where you're like, oh, I don't think I can do this. I have my rights. You technically kind of don't in Night City. Night City's politics, and I don't know what their policies are when it comes to this. I couldn't find anything online. Would not be the same as what you are currently used to. So if we started going I want my rights that after 5 p.m., my manager can't message me. One, you'd probably lose your job, okay? Right away. And then now you're jobless. Not only that, Arasaka would likely just completely ruin your reputation, meaning you probably can't go to another company and get a job. You're probably done. And that's it. You're done as a corpo person in general. So your options are then limited to committing acts that that's like V or the group within Edge Runners, where you have to do certain things in order for you to get by. And it's just something that is interesting. Again, I'm no psychologist, no politician, or not politician, but I'm not into all that stuff. But if you really think about it, there are things that you are accustomed to right now that if you were to try within Night City would probably get you absolutely nowhere. No one would listen to you. No one would care. And you would probably, again, just be there jobless because of your perspective. So, this is very... I understand that this might be a very hot topic, but I'm just saying that's my personal opinion, is that if we were to take certain people or the average person and bring them over there, I do not think, and maybe it's not fair, maybe it's like the average person within the Western world, because I don't know, I can't speak for every single human being on this planet. Maybe it's different under certain norms within the rest of the world, but I do know on average within North America, or at least the Western world, if you were to take an average human being, number one, they wouldn't be able to survive, I think, because of the fact that they're too anxious, or they don't feel security because of the fact that the police system is in and of itself lacking actual people. The second thing is I do not think you would have the income to actually survive and properly function within Night City. So again, you're left with two options, which is go into a corporal world or take the mercenary route. And then lastly, of course, I just don't think people on average nowadays do not have what it takes to survive when it comes to the world or the norms within Night City, because there's certain things we would expect, and then the reality of it is the rules pretty much are not the same. But that's going to do it for me in this one, Chumbas. I know this might be a little interesting, but leave me your thoughts and your opinions in the comment section down below, because I'm actually very interested, because I don't know why I was thinking about this one day. I think it was on my way home from the train, and I was thinking, would I survive in Night City as well as I'm surviving currently in, the city that I live in or work in now? And I remember just thinking, I'm like, I adjusted to this city, but I know if I move, or if I was to just take everything I have right now and move to Night City, I'd probably not be in a very good position. I'd probably doing things where I know it's not, morally correct. I'd probably be doing things for corporations and companies, again, just to abide by what is normal within Night City. That's going to do it for me in this one, Edge Runners. Leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more Cyberpunk content. I will see you, Chumbas, in the next one. Bye!